I'm Jacqueline Johnson.
And I'm Marina Middleton.
And this is Work Party, a podcast that's part work and part party. Work Party celebrates a new generation of women who are redefining the meaning of work on their own terms and having fun while doing it.
In this podcast, we are diving into all the areas of being a working woman: mind, body, and business. No topic is off limit.
Real talk and hot takes. Think of us as your internet work wives. This is Work Party,
the podcast.
Wait, where's the champagne?
Our guest today is Susan Yara, the founder of skincare brand Naturium, which sold to E.L.F. Beauty for $355 million in 2023. Susan didn't come out of traditional beauty or venture-backed startups. She started as a journalist, built a massive skincare media platform, and then turned the audience into her consumers. Naturium launched in 2019, quickly scaled through Target and Amazon, brought on Prelude Growth Partners as an investor in 2021. By the time of the acquisition, the brand was reportedly generating over $90 million in annual net sales. We are going behind the curtain today to talk about this insane and incredible journey. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're so excited to have you. So we were just chatting because you were part of Create and Cultivate community, speaking on stages in the early days as a creator. You had your YouTube channel called Mixed Makeup, and this was like peak YouTube. And you had over 1 million subscribers, tens of millions of views. So at what point did you realize this is a big opportunity and potentially I want to create my own line?
Yeah. You know what? I feel like because I've come from a journalism background, I also was in the early days of starting video networks for media companies.
Back in the day.
Mm-hmm. And because of that, and I had that producing background as well, I feel like I could see the trend that every content creator goes through where they have a peak in their content creation career, and I could feel mine coming.
Yep.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, what do I do with this? Because when you peak, eventually it comes down, right? And it's not like your content creator career ends, right? Like you can still keep going. You just kind of plateau. Your engagement starts to go down a little bit. You know, there's only so much you can keep charging brands. Brands can only pay so much, right? And so I started kind of thinking about like, okay, what do I do with this, right? I've got this following. I've been educating people on skincare. And the thing that people keep asking for is a skincare line, right? And for the longest time, I was fighting it. I was like, a skincare line sounds like a lot of work to do, right?
Yeah.
And I really had the audacity to think that I could bootstrap this. So I started actually working on a brand that I thought I was going to do on my own in 2019. And then fast forward to February 2020, and we all know what kind of happened. We eventually, had COVID come around. And in February, we didn't know we were going to go into lockdown just yet, but it was starting to happen in Asia. And that's where my contract manufacturer was.
Right.
And, we had been working on like 3 different products, and this contract manufacturer emails me and they said, we hate to tell you this, but there's this virus going around. I don't know if you've seen the news, but we're going to have to actually stop working with new clients because we don't have the capacity. But if you want to launch your brand with hand sanitizer, let us know. And I kept thinking to myself, like, why would I launch with hand sanitizer? That's so strange. We'd been working on this for so long. And that kind of like shut everything down. And at that point, I'd already spent tens of thousands of dollars just on like getting the branding together, getting the trademarks together, working with, packaging and stuff. And I had this realization. I was like, I don't think I should do this on my own. And so the Naturium had actually launched silently as an Amazon brand in 2019. And so I reached out to the person who would become my business partner, Ben Bennett. And I just said to him, I love these products that you've sent to me in PR. I love that. I love that you've got this sharp price point. I just want to know what you're doing because the contract manufacturers I've worked with so far, they're, like my minimum orders are going to be too small to be able to have this kind of price point. I think this is a much more fair price point, but these formulas are beautiful. And we started talking, and this was just at the beginning of lockdown when we really started having some serious talks. And no one could envision that like in the next few months, like there would be like this boom of people shopping online. Instead, it felt like doom and gloom. Like this was a terrible time to launch a brand. This was
100%.
Everything was going down. If you happened to buy a house at that very moment, you actually got a deal.
Yep.
Whereas like months later, real estate skyrocketed. So it was the same with starting a brand. And so eventually Ben was like, instead of you working on a separate brand and me working on a separate brand, you've already helped me shape Naturium. Why don't we join forces on this and we start going? And that's when it was just like, it kind of like clicked, right? It was just one of those things because he kept saying to me, why are you in such a hurry to launch something? And I kept saying to him, there's this moment
I'm
that
at the
content
moment.
creators have, and I'm about to hit it.
That foresight is so valuable because I think a lot of content creators, I always am like, play the long game, because this does not last forever. It's so true. And so being able to have that self-awareness to be like, I'm at my peak, it's go time.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm interested to learn a little bit more about how you understood your audience. So obviously you had something most founders spend years building, which is an audience.
Yep.
And I'm curious, what data were you seeing from your audience that gave you that confidence that people would buy products? Because we work with content creators all the time and they might have millions of followers, but they're not converting. So how did you know that that was going to be different with yours?
I mean, you said the word converting, right? And I think that there are very few content creators who are converters. I happen to be a converter. And I'm really proud to say that, right? Because, brands would come to me all the time and I always made sure that, and I think this is kind of the difference with content creators these days too. I always made sure that these were products that I was already organically talking about. I really felt strongly about them. I built my audience to know that every product, if I endorsed it, it was truly a product that I believed in and that I was using. And so I was constantly converting. Like brands would come to me at the end of the quarter and be like, we have a little bit of budget left. Can you just do this push for us because we need to hit our revenue goals, right?
Amazing.
Yeah. So I already knew I was a converter. And I think that that's something that if you're a converter and you're a content creator, you know that you can sell product, right? So that's what you're doing. And so I already, again, coming from like a journalism background and working in media and being online for years, I already knew to look at my analytics, right? Like I think a lot of content creators make the mistake of not actually utilizing their analytics, right? Sometimes they don't even know how to utilize their analytics, but they've got so much information in their phone, right? Or on their YouTube channel, if they just go to the back end, you can see what people are buying. Like I remember I would get comments sometimes like, did you really just do an affiliate link for that Vaseline that you're going to make like a penny on? It's like, go get your money, girl. I get that. And I'd be like, they don't understand. I don't care about the money on that affiliate link.
I need to see the analytics.
Exactly.
Get your money,
Get
girl.
your money.
Get those pennies, princess.
What do
I love
you
it.
think made you a converter? Is it just because everything felt very organic and you were sharing the products that you were using?
I think there was a lot of education behind it too, right? Like it's not just telling people like, oh my God, this is amazing. It was telling them why this is amazing. And that sort of came because skincare is really hard to showcase online, right? And so I remember having a talk with, I think this woman was the PR person at SkinCeuticals years ago. And she was like, we just don't really sponsor people who do skincare online because it's hard to show the product. And so I remember having that conversation with her and thinking in my head, like, I really need to figure out a way to get people to understand skincare a lot easier. And that eventually led to something called skincare reaction videos. And so I started these reaction videos where I would look at celebrity skincare routines and I would break down what they were doing right and what they were doing wrong. And I think that's when it really clicked for people that they started like truly understanding. It was not just entertaining for them, but they started to really understand the steps of their skincare, why they would use something, why they wouldn't want to use the same types of ingredients over and over in their routine and stuff. So I think that education really helped to start that converting.
Sure. Yeah. Because skincare, it's like a hot mess. You're like, what do I put on? 20-step skincare routine? Is it this vitamin C or is it the, hyaluronic acid? It's very confusing. So I think that's amazing that you were able to do that. In terms of the launch, like walk us through like, okay, you and Ben do this deal and you're about to launch. Like what went into that strategy?
Honestly, there was no strategy.
I love that. Yeah.
There was no strategy. We were trying to come up with a strategy, but it was a really volatile time online. If you guys remember, it's like June 2020. Yeah. There was a lot happening and I had some issues happen in my private Facebook group for Mixed Makeup. And it was a little traumatizing. It was like, there was a lot, it's a long story, a lot happening. And it caused people to be like, we should take a look at Susan, start going through her old social media, try to find things about her. And it turns out I'm squeaky clean. Yeah. There's nothing, right? Like I've been online forever. And I think that almost pissed people off more that they couldn't find anything. Yeah. So they tried to go deep. Like
it was
really,
a witch
really
hunt.
dig.
Yeah, for sure.
And so the only thing they could find was that there seemed to be this association with me and the brand that I had talked about. But what they didn't know is that I hadn't been part of the brand when I first spoke about it.
Okay.
And so then a rumor kind of started where it was like, I could see. So, like I'd have my followers send me like screenshots and they'd be like, you should see in this other Facebook group, these people are talking about you and they've got this plan. Like they think that you've been doing like these bad things, like lying to everybody about this brand and stuff. And so I already had an idea that this was happening. And instead of being like, clarifying to people. I'm such a hard-headed person that I was like, you know what? I'm going to like mock them a little bit more.
Yeah. No,
How dare they try to get into my business? They don't even know what's going on, right?
they're doing serious work.
Yeah, they're like going to media companies, like telling them their theory, like it started to get really intense.
Yeah.
It got really, really intense. And so instead of being like, I'm going to clarify this, I thought these are like some crazy trolls. I'm going to just like mock them a little bit and then just like move on with my life. And in the background, Ben and I he was like, here's the brand, we're taking it over. It took us months to come to an agreement. You guys know how that is. Like, you got to like negotiate everything. You got to like, he had already started the brand, right? And so, it's like, now this is going to become my vision. So we really didn't have a plan of when we were going to announce me joining the brand. But then all of this stuff in the background started to kind of heat up. Like it actually started to
we got to do something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess like they reached out to a reporter at Glossier at the time. And she kind of like took the bait. She was like, oh yeah, I'll find out if she's the founder of the brand or not. And so she goes to the PR company and without context, she's just like, hey, I'm writing this article on serums. I'd love to include something from Naturium, but there's no information on the website about who founded the company. And I had just signed my paperwork with Ben. And the PR person says, because he's thinking like, this is a reporter he works with all the time. So he's not thinking anything. He's like, oh yeah, it's Susan Yara, but it's embargoed information, more coming soon. She didn't ask any other questions. She just took it right back to those people that came to her and said, you guys are right. She's the founder of the company and she's been lying to you guys. And it's like, it turned into this hot mess. So this turned into, it's go time. Like I guess we got to announce this.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Well, dramatic entry.
Dramatic entry. But in hindsight, as much as I don't recommend a dramatic entry like that.
Sure, it drummed up a lot of buzz.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. And it really does kind of show that like, all press and all media is good media, no matter what.
And so within 3 years, it was winning Target Beauty Vendor of the Year in 2022, which was obviously incredible and very rare for a young brand. Mm-hmm. What do you think caused that momentum? It can't be obviously all the drama. It has to be the product,
I think,
right?
You know what? Listen, I when I talk to people, I think that, I think people were surprised that because I only have like, in comparison to some of the other content creators out there, it's like 1.5 million subscribers isn't 10 million subscribers. And I think like somebody who's got a really massive following is going to be able to do a brand bigger. But what people don't understand is it's that consistency. I'd already been online for a decade, right? And so even if they're not following me, they've been touched by something that I've put on the internet, right? Like they've learned something about skincare. And I think that overall, people were like, I've learned so much about skincare from Susan, or I've learned about, something about being a mom, or I like was pregnant at the same time as her. There's all these like touch points, right? And I think that overall people were like, I trust her. And I think that really is important for people to remember when they're content creators is that you have to really build trust. And I've said this to a lot of like the younger content creators that come to me for advice about like starting a brand and stuff. It's like, you haven't been online for more than 2 years, maybe a year. Like, fine, you've got a massive audience, but you haven't built this trust. You haven't built this relationship with them.
Consistency.
And that feels like a cash grab. Whereas like people had grown to feel like they knew me, right? And I think that because of it, and they knew what I was into, and they knew my approach to skincare, and they knew that I wasn't going to put anything out that wasn't something that I truly believed in, because I would never sell them anything that I don't believe in, right? And so because of that, I think it felt like this was just such a win. And there was, there's so much behind the brand too. I wanted to make sure, that it was a price point that people would actually want to buy their routine and feel good about buying it every single month, because you have to be consistent with your skincare routine or you see no changes, right? Yeah. And that's one of the biggest issues with prestige skincare is that it's so expensive, people don't want to waste it. They use that word. And that's not how you should see skincare. You should see skincare as something that you use daily, morning, night. You use it for at least like 6 weeks to like 3 months to truly see a change with your skin. And then you start to actually understand that, wait, my skincare is actually making a difference. So, so the price point matters.
Yeah,
otherwise,
I remember I got sent a PR package with all the items and I was using them. And I remember being like, I was like out of one. I went to go, I was like, oh, this is going to be so expensive. And I got it. I was like, oh, this is like wildly affordable, which I was like, oh, that's such a nice feeling. Cause like, it's like, I do feel like sometimes the products at work, you're like, this is going to be so expensive. But like, it actually was incredible. And you also did a lot of different SKUs. So it was like a full like set of items as well, which was nice because you, again, to your point, were able to educate. So in 2021, you brought on Prelude Growth Partners, the same consumer fund that has backed brands like Glossier and Skims. So was this your first foray into venture capital? And like, how did this come about?
I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you are an indie brand, when you start to go into a big box retailer like Sephora, I mean, like Target, like Sephora, like Ulta, any of these brands, you need to have a lot more cash.
Yep.
Right. And so even if you're a successful brand, in some ways it can almost like shoot you in the foot.
For sure.
Right. Like, I don't know if you guys remember Farsali, that brand. They were really, really popular. They were self-funded. Also a creator brand, and they were the ones that remember the unicorn tears.
Oh yeah.
That? They, I think, were doing like 50 million in revenue at Sephora, and the founders talk about this online a lot. And you know, like it can almost like shoot you in the foot as an indie brand if you grow too fast, because you don't have the cash flow. And what I mean by that for people that are listening, that, you know, you are spending so much money up front to be able to put so many products into so many stores. Target, we went into every single door, which is like 1,400 stores or something, with like, I don't know, 20 SKUs at the time or something like that. Maybe it was like a little less. It was more than 10 SKUs. I remember that for sure. And the amount of cash it takes up front to be able to do that can make or break a brand, right? And so you have to find a really good partner to be able to invest in your brand and have that cash flow going. Otherwise, you won't be able to make it.
Yeah, I'm so curious. Obviously, you have so many SKUs and you had so many SKUs. You have one hero product, which I would love for you to tell us a little bit about. But what was the product roadmap look like? And like, what products did you scratch that you're like, no, this wasn't a hit?
Okay, well, so actually we have, the strategy is actually to not ever have one hero product.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we actually have about like 10 to 15 hero products that do really well. The whole strategy is that skincare is personal. What you're dealing with is different from what I'm dealing with and what you're dealing with, right? Everybody has different skin tones. Everybody has different skin issues. Skin sensitivities are also a different beast, right? And so it's creating enough SKUs where people can actually pick and choose the right kind of skincare routine that works for them. And then we eventually took that and took that strategy and moved it into body as well. And I think that, you know, for a lot of people, it's, you know, for us, it was kind of like finding those top products, right? So for us, it's like the Glow Getter body wash is one of our top sellers. The entire Glow Getter franchise actually is in our top 10. Our vitamin C complex serum for a while there. And we have like products that kind of move in and out as well. But our multi-peptide collection does really well. So it's just making sure that we're not always reliant on one product, which is like the old strategy of cosmetic brands, right? It's always making sure that you have, you know, my old business partner, Ben, used to call it, you have your Harvard children and then your community college children, right? Like they're all kind of like supporting each other. You put a lot of attention into the Harvard children because you know they're going to be stars. But you always have to make sure that you love and care for your community college kids, because they're not worse. They're there to like, they're part of the family and they're there to support the family, right?
I love the personalized skincare thing because it is really like a lot of, here's one product for your solution. It's like everyone has different skin, like you need that full routine. So I really appreciate that. You've been open about building this company to sell. Obviously, like you've partnered with Ben and like we're able to do that. What, like, when you were building, how did you always have an exit in mind? Or did you not? Were you just like, we just need to do what's working for the company?
No. It was 100%. I think one of the things I appreciated the most about Ben was our first conversation about being partners was, don't get attached to this brand. You can be passionate about it. You can love this brand and pour your heart into it, but we are building it to sell it. And I always appreciated that because it, from the get-go, you know what the goal is, right? And you know that you know that you're going to go, like his whole thing was, I'm an investor. I'm going to step back. You're going to take it over. You will go with this brand when we sell this brand, right? Like, so you're always kind of in that mindset. And from day one, we're always talking strategy. We're always talking revenue. Like we had a game where we would do, you know, at the end of the day, like around 5 p.m., we would get a Slack message from Ben, the entire executive team. And he'd be like, revenue goals, go. Our revenue goal for today. Like, what do you think we're going to hit? And we all had to get into this practice of knowing what we were going to hit, and whoever, you know, like no one won anything. It was just like whoever could get the closest. And it was really just this practice of like knowing whatever we did that day, what was our strategy, what like gift with purchase did we have, what launch did we do, what do we think that our revenue is going to be today at the end of the day by midnight, right? And it just really helped us get into that right mindset of knowing our numbers. And I think that was really important for us. But from the get-go, I knew this was going to be a brand that we were building to sell. And I think that's important because you know what? Most people are starting their brands to sell them, but they don't want to admit it because it feels like some dirty little like secret. it or something.
Totally.
But this is the dream, right? Like if
Yeah,
you can
of
build something,
course.
be passionate about it, love it, and people love it so much that you get to have an exit with it, that's amazing.
No, it's absolutely the
Yeah, I never understood when people like didn't like that or
Yeah.
were angry for it. I'm like, why? But by the time E.L.F acquired Naturium in 2023 for $355 million, that's insane. The brand was doing around $90 million in annual revenue, which again is rare in the beauty space, especially for that many years. What were the biggest growth levers that got you there, and what marketing do you feel like actually worked?
You know, we were really lucky. One, I mean, we knew we were going into all Target doors. And I tell founders this all the time. If you feel like you're going to, be able to support that kind of business, go into all doors. Don't try to a lot of the time, a big box retailer will say to you, let's start small. Let's put you into like our top 20 doors or something first and see how you do. That's nothing for them. That's everything for you. So is that strategy going to really work for you, right? Like you should ask for more up front because whatever you're doing, it's more on you than it is for the retailer. So always ask for more. When we went to Target, they first offered 400 doors and we said, no, we want all doors because we felt like that was going to be the best strategy for us, especially if we're going to be exclusive with them as our main
Totally.
retailer.
Yeah, you have leverage.
If someone doesn't know how many doors is that?
1,400, like about 1,400 doors,
Yeah.
so a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were like, this is, we're going to hold hands and we're going to go into this together. Right. Like that's really like, we want to be in a relationship with you. We don't want to be, like always going to you and like begging. you know?
Totally.
And so that's something I think that's really important when you go to your retail partner, you really are committing together. And when we went to Target, I knew from my analytics that this was the retailer we were going to be in. Like there was no question. We built this brand to be sold in Target first. And so we knew that we wanted them to be our retail partner for a few years. So being exclusive with them wasn't a question at all, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that rapid growth can hurt you as far as cash flow, but also you want that marketing. Like you're giving so much margin up for a big box retailer that you're really, your main purpose there is to make sure you're getting really great marketing, right? And so you want to stay in that store and make sure that they focus on you and help build you as a brand.
So let's talk about that marketing. What would you feel like really helped accelerate outside of just being in Target?
Well, I think that a lot of indie brand founders don't realize that you can go to your merchant, right? Whether it's at Sephora, whether it's at Target, whether it's at Ulta, and you can tell them what your goals are, right? Like next year, if we're gonna, hold hands and we're gonna be in this together, our revenue goal is X. How are you going to help us get there? And what can we do to support that, right? And vice versa. And I think those are really important conversations because every big box retailer I know, Sephora, Target, Ulta, all of the people behind those brands, they also love to build brands, right? So they want to do this with you. So that I think excites them. When you bring them into your plan, they want to be able to have a say. They want to be able to say that they help build your brand. And so, they can support it with the way that they promote it. And, like Target has all their like flyers, their promotions that they do, the way they give you like an end cap, the way that they have you show up in front of the store or in the middle of the beauty section. It's just kind of dependent on each retailer, but you need to make sure that you've got a plan because they can kind of forecast with you too. Like if we give you this end cap, for a month and a half when it's back to school, right? This is going to generate at least X amount of revenue for you, right? So then you can calculate that in your head. That's the kind of revenue that you want. And then you go to your D2C strategy, right? Like for us, it's really important. I think for every indie brand, you have to have a strong D2C presence to begin with because every big box retailer is going to look at you and be like, well, why would we bring you in if you can't even sell yourself?
Yep.
Yeah.
So when you were going through the process of the acquisition, obviously due diligence is intense. It's time consuming. It's a literal deep dive into the nitty gritty of your business. And you guys were doing that and you kind of discovered a few things. You were like, oh, we got to make sure we have trademarks internationally. You got to make sure you have all this stuff buttoned up, which is not top of mind when you're building a brand. So what was that process like?
I mean, first you start with, you're kind of like courting investment bankers. And I think,
totally.
Before that, I don't think I truly understood what investment bankers did.
Yeah.
Like I remember being in my 20s and going on dates with guys that'd be like, I'm an investment banker. I'd be like, cool, he's a banker. Like he's in the finance finance industry, right? And I never truly understand what they did. But the way I think of them is they're kind of like your real estate agent.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're the ones that are, like buttoning everything up, taking a look at what you're presenting to sell. And then they tell you what this is valued at, what they think it's going to be valued at, what they think you need to clean up. Like just like selling a house, like, you need to fix your lawn, you need to fix up
Change
these,
your roof. Yeah.
Change the roof.
Who did you end up going with?
We went with Vanette over at Raymond James.
Okay.
She's the best in the beauty industry.
Love a female banker.
We love it too. And she just really is. She's the best. Like if you can get her and her team, they have sold some of the biggest companies,
Amazing.
So it's like a beauty company specifically. So she is like the woman. Anyway, but there were some other really great bankers that we spoke to as well. We really clicked with Vanette. So it's find your investment banker first. You spend almost a year just cleaning everything up, making sure your finances are all checked, making sure that we're a young brand. We were only like 2.5 years old when we hired her. So, there wasn't a lot to clean up, honestly. Like it was like, there's no skeletons in the closet. There's nothing in finance that looks crazy. But they take a look at things like, why did you have this month where the revenue dipped or you didn't hit your revenue goals for this year or something? Why is that happening? What's going to be your story when you talk to these potential buyers, right? And so there was a lot of that kind of prep. Trademark was a big thing. You've probably heard me say this.
Yes.
One of the things that surprised me was we didn't have a trademark for Naturium in Spain.
Yeah.
We just couldn't get it because it was already taken. There was this weird Amazon brand that wasn't even called Naturium, but it was close enough.
Yeah.
And this guy had a trademark. And I remember we were like,
It was a skincare brand.
it was like a skincare brand that was being sold on Amazon in Spain.
You're like, this kills the deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were adamant, like, if you can't get that trademark, this could kill the deal.
Wow.
And we were like, really? In Spain of all places? And so we prepped for this. Like we were going to have our president call this guy up because our president at the time was European also.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're going to be like buddy or something. And we were like coming up with an offer, like, okay, we can offer X amount of money and that'll make sense for us and stuff. So he finally calls him up and this guy was so chill. He was like, oh yeah, you want to use the trade? No problem. Like didn't ask for anything. Like it was not a big deal. And we had like gone to our attorneys and drafted things and ready.
No.
And it was just like not a big
funny.
deal.
I love
But
that.
it could have been.
It could have been. Yeah.
It could have been a huge deal.
Oh, for sure.
You talk a little bit about like the banker experience for you when you were ready to sell Create and Cultivate originally. I always find it so interesting because
It
like
is fascinating.
if you've never thought about selling your company, you don't even know that those steps, are there.
Yeah. People think people like knock on your door. It's not reality. Yeah.
You've talked about E.L.F. Beauty actually being your dream acquirer.
Yep.
What was it about them that they understood about the brand that you felt like this is where the brand needs to live?
I think as you're building your brand, you start to talk to other founders and you talk to founders who have had their brands acquired, right? And you sometimes hear these stories where they're just like unhappy. They don't like the direction that the buyer took them in, whether it was private equity or a strategic. And so, I just kind of started paying attention to all the potential buyers out there. And E.L.F. really stood out to me as a company that could really be a good partner with us because we're still such a young brand. We're only 5 years old at this point. And you want to make sure that you're going to be able to still grow as a brand, right? Like I think it's also different. People don't realize that, even though I've sold the brand, right, it doesn't mean that I'm done with the brand. My name and my image is completely attached to this brand, right? And so I still feel a lot of pride in it. I still want it to grow. It still feels like a baby to me and it needs to be nurtured. And so you're thinking about that as you're looking at the potential buyers. E.L.F. just everything that I was looking at, you could see in talking to people that they were starting to get into this game where they wanted to start growing as a strategic and start to buy up brands and stuff. But you could tell that they were looking for very specific brands.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember texting Ben like December, like the December before we actually sold the brand. And I said to him, we're going to go to E.L.F. And he goes, do you know something I don't know? I was like, no, I just sense it. Like we're going to go to E.L.F.
Yeah, I'm curious because you just talked about it. A lot of founders, when they sell, they walk away.
Yeah.
You obviously didn't, and you just said you're so associated with the brand. Was there a specific reason that like helped you make that decision, or?
I mean, I think that we were always a little bit worried that I didn't have a traditional founder story, right? And meaning that, now we're seeing so many celebrities and content creators be like the founders
Join
of
in on
brands,
brand,
right?
yeah.
But when we were doing this, we were just like a couple of years ahead of everybody, and more and more, I think like potential buyers, especially private equity, this felt a little bit scary to them. You were seeing so many content creators get canceled. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if they're business people, right? And most of the time they aren't. And so it could feel a little bit scary to be the founder of the brand. And so we started to kind of like think about how we wanted to approach this. And you said this when we were sitting down, that you didn't even know I was associated with the brand. And that was on purpose. Right? On purpose, because we wanted to make sure that if they didn't like me, I could step away from it.
That's so crazy. So crazy that is the mentality. It was the same thing with Create and Cultivate. There was like people who saw it as an advantage and people who saw it as a major disadvantage. Yes. And it was really like, if Susan goes, then what happens? It's like becomes this thing, but like this is our new reality that we live in. This is the way brands are going to grow, and influencers are the distribution and the trust behind it, and the founders and the business people. You could be it all.
You can be all of it. And so as we start to go into this acquisition mode with our investment bankers, the strategy at first was, I'm going to take a little bit of a step back. We hired a president. We're going to let him lead and let him be the business person behind this, and kind of go from there. But as I started to like see how that was going, that process, like maybe just a month of this, right? I went back to Ben and I was like, I know this is what we discussed and how we planned this, but this is not how it's going to go. I was like, I can't. Yeah. We've worked too hard to build this brand. I truly am the person behind. I know everything about this brand.
Yes.
Everything is in my image. Like everything is what I wanted for these formulas. I've been behind all the innovation. I've been behind all the marketing. I know everything about this brand. And he's not going to sell this brand the way I'm going to sell this brand.
Absolutely.
Right?
I love that.
And so Ben and I kind of discussed it. And I was like, I'm sticking with the brand. He was like, are you sure you don't want to have this ability to just like take a step back and be done with it once you sell it? And I was like, no, it's too young. I love the brand and I feel really proud of it. And I want to continue being proud of it. Like it would actually be a disaster to me if 10 years from now, this brand completely disappeared and felt like it was just a cash grab to people, right? Like I want people to know that this brand was built for them and that it really is a good brand and they're going to rely on it.
Love that.
Absolutely. So you've built, scaled, sold a brand, now are here. Like what excites you next? Like what's going on for you in your like new chapter?
So a couple of things. I mean, we're trying to build Naturium into a household name.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is a whole new way of looking at the brand. Do I love this part of building a brand? Not as much, right? Because now it's strategic, but it's not like roll your sleeves up and
totally
get dirty,
the scrappiness of it. Yeah.
And I think I really love the scrappiness of it. So while I continue to build Naturium on the back end, I'm also now about to launch a new brand.
Yay!
So
oh my God, everyone. We're we love that.
Yeah.
Wait, new brand in what category?
It's actually a fragrance-forward hair care and body care brand. It's called Playa.
Amazing.
It launches May 1st. The strategy behind it is completely different. I kind of feel like it's my alter ego. Actually, my friends are always like, this is actually who you really are. And your alter ego is the person that everyone saw you as online, because I was always like buttoned up and educating and stuff. And like Playa is all about being sexy, showing off your ass, being in a bikini. Like,
yes.
So it's really fun.
You deserve to shake some ass.
Yeah, no,
you worked hard.
Well, we're so excited to try it. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, you're
ready
gonna
for
rapid fire.
Okay. Most underrated growth channel for beauty brands.
I mean, Amazon. I think that so many brands really need to get on Amazon if they haven't already. I think more and more brands understand this now, but even just like a year and a half ago, I remember talking to founders of not just beauty brands, fashion brands, everybody, and them being like, nah, that's not our style. And it's like, get on Amazon.
Worst advice founders get about building consumer brands?
I think that everyone gets scared about taking investment.
Yeah.
I really do. And I understand that, but I think that you need to get investment at a very strategic moment in your brand. And for us, that was going into big box retailers.
Totally.
If a founder wants to sell their company one day, what should they start doing today?
They should think about the brand as that. Like they should be thinking like, what do I do to build this brand to get to acquisition?
You're like, and get your trademark in Spain.
Yeah.
What's the biggest myth about exits?
That you are going to be miserable with whoever buys you, right? I'm so happy with E.L.F. And I tell people this all the time. I have an employment contract with them, right? Like I can give a 30-day notice and walk away at any time. They did not lock me down. They did not say to me, like, you can never leave for X amount of years. They've given me like truly an employment contract essentially. That's amazing. And it's so much fun.
Creator brands, trend or long-term business model?
Long-term.
Love.
One thing founders should never cheap out on.
Good employees.
If you were launching today in 2026, what would you do differently?
I think marketing is completely different now, and I am launching now in 2026 with a new brand. I think that relying too much on social media is going to be the wrong strategy. I think that there's a place for it, right? Still, but I also think that people are getting more and more exhausted with social media, with AI. I mean, by next year, AI is going to dominate social media. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it, but it is. And people won't know what they should trust. And everyone is craving in-person experiences. And so I think that that's where it goes. Yeah.
Exactly.
We love to hear it.
Cultivate.
Would you rather have 10 million followers or 10 million in revenue?
Completely different.
I know. I know.
10 million followers could equal $10 million in revenue.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, for me, I'd like to have the 10 million followers because I know that the people who follow me believe
That's
me.
true. That's true. Okay.
Okay. What's a beauty brand you admire right now?
I love Tower 28. I think Amy Liu is a really amazing founder. She bootstrapped and put her, I mean, she launched her products at the same time in a big box retailer, which I think is a strategy that a lot of people can't accomplish. And now she's doing such a great job. She did end up going with Prelude as her investors as well more recently, but she waited for a really long time and was very strategic about it.
Good for her. That's so exciting. Susan, thank you so much. Your story is so inspiring and your transparency is really appreciated. Thanks so much for being on Work Party.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Work Party. If you like what you heard, follow, leave a review, rate the pod, or slide into our DMs.
Check out the different ways you can create and cultivate on our website, createcultivate.com. From retreats and masterminds to our summits and festival.
We have different experiences to support you through your entrepreneurial journey from launch
to legacy.
Follow us at Create Cultivate on all platforms. And don't forget, work hard.
Party on.
Please note that this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services. Individuals on the show may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to in this episode.